The whistle blows, the heavy pads crack, and instantly, the energy at Hallis Hall just gets sucked right out of the blistering August air. It's a Thursday afternoon, the heat is radiating off the turf, and the intensity of practice is cranked to an absolute maximum. But instead of players jogging back to the huddle after a grueling rep, the medical cards are rolling out. And then, they roll out again. It is a staggering, visceral sight. For a franchise carrying the heavy weight of playoff ultimatums and immense pressure this season, this was supposed to be the training camp where everything finally came together, where the foundation was poured. Instead, we aren't just looking at a few bumps and bruises that guys can walk off. We are looking at multiple critical starters and essential rotational pieces being physically helped off the grass in the middle of a deeply punishing practice. Welcome to the unforgiving, relentless reality of NFL training camp. Here in the dog days of summer, simply surviving to week 1 is just as important as mastering the playbook. In this explainer, we are going to break down the sheer physical toll this specific camp is taking, the massive structural problems these injuries create for the coaching staff, and the completely unexpected rookie phenom who is heavy-handedly forcing his way into the spotlight to save a bleeding defense. Let's get into exactly what went down.
Now, you have to understand, this is not your standard daily injury report. This represents a foundational crisis for a team carrying massive expectations into the season. We are witnessing the sheer, undeniable physical cost of Ben Johnson's intensely demanding practices. 5 key players, men this roster is entirely depending on for survival in a loaded division, were forced to abandon the field in a single afternoon. When a coach demands absolute physical dominance and full contact aggression to prepare for the regular season, the tax is almost always paid in muscle, bone, and ligament. Ben Johnson's philosophy and the overall culture being built here relies on an old-school, contact-heavy approach. It's designed to forge absolute, unbreakable toughness. But right now, the bill has come due for this roster. The fine line between getting your team battle-tested and literally losing your season before September even begins is razor thin. When you push the human body to its absolute limits day in and day out, something eventually snaps. This is a critical pivot point for the team's survival, and we really need to understand exactly who went down and what it means for the entire architecture of this defense.
The sheer scale of the damage here is undeniable. Just look at the grim reality of this defensive injury crisis stemming from a single session. Let's start up front. Montez Sweat, the premier edge rusher and the absolute anchor of this defensive line, was forced to exit practice early. When your top pass rusher, the guy who dictates how opposing offenses block you, leaves the field, the entire defensive structure holds its breath. But then, the secondary depth just started crumbling. Dallas Flowers and Graverius Owens, both highly essential rotational defensive backs, suffered lower body injuries in rapid succession. Flowers literally had to be taken away on a cart, a sight that immediately and understandably deflates an entire sideline. But the most devastating blow of the afternoon, that belongs to safety Kobe Bryant. His current status? Out. Potentially for 10 weeks. 10 weeks. Let that reality sink in for a second. In the relentlessly fast-paced landscape of the National Football League, a 10-week absence might as well be a lifetime. That completely wipes out the critical opening gauntlet of the regular season, forcing defensive coordinators into a state of absolute panic as they scramble to rewrite their entire coverage scheme.
And the bleeding absolutely did not stop on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive trenches took a massive, terrifying hit as well. Starting left tackle Braxton Jones was forced to exit the field following a punishing one-on-one pass rushing battle with edge rusher Austin Booker. You have to grasp the immense stakes here for the architecture of this team. Braxton Jones is the man tasked with protecting the blind side of a highly prized franchise quarterback. Statistically, blindside protection is the single most vital metric for a young quarterback's survival and development in this league. If your left tackle is getting beat, your quarterback isn't reading the field. He's just trying to survive. Losing Jones, or losing an elite disruptor like Montez Sweat on the other side, for any real length of time could completely unravel the roster's foundation. These aren't luxury players you can simply rotate out when they get tired. These are the load-bearing pillars this entire franchise's strategy is built upon. If the trenches collapse, the entire scheme collapses right along with them, potentially turning a season of high hopes into an absolute nightmare.
Listen to how the players themselves are processing this carnage. Veteran edge rusher Austin Booker openly validated the punishing environment of this specific training camp. He stated, "Every snap, we're aggressive." He went on to emphasize that this is exactly how they are going to play this year, so they literally have to make it look like that in practice. This brilliantly illustrates a crucial point. This isn't reckless, and it isn't dirty. It is a necessary preparation. If you want to survive the freezing, bone-crunching reality of the NFC North, the historic black and blue division, you have to be ready. You are going up against heavy-hitting, incredibly physical divisional rivals who want nothing more than to break you over 4 quarters. You simply cannot simulate that kind of historical brutality without full contact in August. The players know the cost, but they also know the absolute necessity of being battle-hardened for what awaits them in December.
The true nightmare of all these injuries really boils down to a single number: 10. This represents the amount of weeks starting safety Kobe Bryant could miss, and we need to unpack the immediate domino effect this creates across the board. When a starting safety vanishes from the depth chart for 2.5 months, it doesn't just affect one single position, it destabilizes the entire secondary. Think about the immediate impact on the playbook. Suddenly, the deep thirds in your cover 3 schemes are highly vulnerable. The deep halves in a cover 2 lack that instinctual split-second veteran communication. Your slot corner suddenly has to learn how to backpedal into deep zone coverages against elite wide receivers. It places an astronomical amount of cascading pressure on cornerbacks like Kyler Gordon to stay perfectly healthy and play flawless man coverage, because that crucial safety net over the top is completely gone. A 10-week injury in August forces a complete rewiring of the defensive playbook and changes the entire mathematical geometry of the secondary.
To truly understand the gravity of this situation, we have to look at the human element. Defensive back Cam Lewis offered this thought, which honestly has to be the understatement of the entire summer. We have been through a little bit of adversity so far. This drastically humanizes the tension inside that building right now. It shows us the sheer mental toll this sudden, compounding adversity is taking on the defensive backs room. In a cursed training camp like this, paranoia starts to set in. These guys aren't just statistics on a depth chart. They're watching their teammates, their friends, go down day after day. The anxiety of wondering who is next, mixed with the crushing pressure of the next man up reality, where you have to flawlessly execute new, unfamiliar assignments, creates a psychological crucible. The physical toll quickly manifests as mental fatigue, stretching these athletes to their absolute limits before the first official kickoff even happens.
So, who actually steps into the void when the dam breaks? The answer is Cam Lewis. He is being asked to be the ultimate savior for a completely depleted room. Lewis is a former Buffalo Bills defensive back who was brought over in free agency specifically for his adaptability. But consider the reality of his physical profile. He is a natural 183-pound slot cornerback. His entire career is built on short area quickness, 360-degree awareness in heavy traffic, guarding shifty slot receivers, and navigating the chaos close to the line of scrimmage. Now, practically overnight, he's being abruptly forced into the deep safety role to replace Kobe Bryant. The geometrical difference on the football field is massive. You go from twitchy two-way goes in the slot to playing 15 yards deep, reading the quarterback's eyes, taking precise angles, and erasing vertical threats. It is a monumental tactical leap. Yet defensive coordinator Dennis Allen has publicly praised his invaluable versatility. Lewis is smart, he is instinctive, and right now he's the absolute last lifeline this secondary has left.
Okay, let's take a deep breath here, because while the secondary is quite literally bleeding out and patching holes with whatever they can find, we need to dramatically pivot the narrative pendulum down into the trenches. Right in the middle of this agonizing camp, something incredible is happening. A totally unexpected spark is emerging on the defensive line. Going into the offseason, the interior defensive tackle position was universally recognized as the team's most glaring, vulnerable weakness. The depth chart was barren. They had failed to land marquee free agents to plug the middle, leaving the center of the defense as a gaping hole, highly vulnerable to the run game. They desperately needed a disruptor. And out of the absolute chaos of these grueling practices, a solution is starting to present itself that has the coaching staff, the veterans, and the media completely captivated. Let me introduce you to the name that has everyone buzzing, Jordan Vandenberg. Consider the intense context of his arrival. He was drafted in the 6th round. Historically, 6th-round picks are guys you just hope can maybe carve out a role on special teams or sit on a practice squad for a couple of years to develop. But the front office saw something so compelling in him that they made a desperate but highly calculated gamble. They completely mortgaged their remaining late-round future capital, swapping assets just to jump the line and secure him. They knew they had to address the massive weakness on the interior line, and they saw their guy. Every scouting report on Vandenberg said the exact same thing. He is an absolute athletic anomaly, a total freak of nature, but he is dangerously raw. He was the ultimate developmental project dropped directly into a high-stakes, win-now environment.
And why would an NFL general manager risk trading away future assets for a raw project in the dying hours of the draft? It all comes back to a perfect score: 10. That is Jordan Vandenberg's relative athletic score, or RAS, a perfect 10. This metric mathematically combines a player's size, speed, explosion, and agility into a single grade to compare them against decades of historical NFL draft data. A 10 means you are literally at the absolute pinnacle of human athletic potential for your size.
To put that into scale, players who have hit perfect tens historically include legendary physical freaks like Calvin Johnson and Myles Garrett. When a scouting department sees a 300-plus pound man who can move with the terrifying explosion of a linebacker, they will happily overlook a lack of polished technique. You simply cannot teach this genetic profile. Measurables like this are the exact reason a team pushes all their chips to the center of the table on day 3 of the draft.
But this wasn't a player who dominated from day one. His journey to the NFL is a mysterious, grinding evolution. Vandenberg is the quintessential late bloomer. Look at years 1 through 3. He's at Penn State, a massive powerhouse program, but he is completely buried on the depth chart. He struggles to even get on the field, never exceeding a single sack or 15 total tackles in a season. Most players would have folded, transferring down a level or just fading into obscurity right there. But in year 4, he utilizes the transfer portal as a lifeline and heads to Georgia Tech. Suddenly, a spark. He secures 23 tackles and 5 tackles for loss. He is finally finding his footing. And then year 5 arrives, the ultimate breakout season. The raw power finally marries with the processing speed of the game. He physically matures and erupts for 44 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. It took 5 full years, but the monster was finally unlocked.
The key that triggered NFL scouting alarms wasn't just raw tackles. It was his massive leap in quarterback pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. Getting a sack is great, but consistently pressuring the quarterback and collapsing the pocket is mathematically the fastest way to ruin a modern NFL offense. Edge pressure allows a quarterback to step up, but interior pressure, that destroys the pocket, blocks throwing lanes, and forces devastating turnovers. In 2024, Vandenberg logged a modest 8 pressures, but look at 2025. He absolutely skyrocketed to 21 pressures. That massive, undeniable leap in production proved that his athleticism wasn't just theoretical anymore. It was translating into terrifying, consistent disruption right up the middle of the offensive line. He was finally learning how to use his perfect athletic frame as an absolute weapon.
So, we know the history and we know the staggering metrics, but we have to shift the focus back to the present day at Halas Hall, because this is where the rubber meets the road. The most critical question for any highly athletic draft pick from the ACC is this: can a college late bloomer actually survive against grown men? Can he hold his own against ruthless, seasoned NFL veterans in the middle of a brutally physical training camp? The jump in required power, leverage, and hand technique is staggering. Potential gets you drafted, but production keeps you from getting cut. The lights are brighter, the men are stronger, and the margin for error is exactly 0. Everyone in that building is waiting to see if the college tape was a fluke or if the sheer athleticism can weather the storm of an actual NFL trench battle. Well, the answer is an absolute thrilling confirmation. Jordan Vandenberg isn't just surviving camp. He is actively wrecking the offensive line. Reports from the beat writers confirm he is securing decisive, overwhelming wins against established interior linemen like Logan Jones and Luke Newman. He is practically tossing guys around at the line of scrimmage. The coaching staff immediately took notice of this dominance, and they didn't hesitate for a second. They elevated him, giving him highly coveted first-team reps during heavy inside run drills. This rapid ascent perfectly mirrors the rookie rise of left tackle Braxton Jones back in 2022, when a day 3 draft pick marched in, refused to back down from anybody, and locked down a starting job. It creates an incredible open loop for this defense. If he is commanding the trenches in week 2 of camp, just how high can this kid climb by September?
And you do not have to just rely on media hype or beat reporters. The ultimate validation comes directly from the locker room. Veteran edge rusher Austin Booker went out of his way to offer this high praise. I think we all see it on the field that he's a really good player. When established NFL edge rushers are publicly acknowledging the dominance of a rookie 6th-round defensive tackle, you know this is real. And it makes perfect football sense. When an interior defensive tackle is so explosive that he demands double teams, the edge rushers are left on an island to feast on one-on-ones. Booker's praise comes from knowing his own job just got significantly easier because of the gravitational pull of this rookie. This isn't just a fun training camp storyline. This is undeniable, concrete reality recognized by the men battling next to him.
He has already conquered the 4th-string irrelevance, proving his value from the absolute bottom of the barrel. Right now, he is aggressively tearing into the 2nd-string rotation and demanding major rotational snaps. But the ultimate boiling point lies directly ahead. Can he actually usurp a highly respected veteran like Grady Jarrett for a starting role? To even suggest a raw 6th-rounder could take over a job from a veteran with Jarrett's pedigree, a perennial disruptive force in this league, is normally madness. It is completely unprecedented. But if Vandenberg continues to be an unblockable anomaly in practice, tossing aside seasoned guards like they are tackling dummies, the coaches will have absolutely no choice. You have to put your best, most dangerous weapons on the field, regardless of when they were drafted.
Which leaves us to ponder this incredibly heavy question. Can an untested, raw rookie step into the spotlight and anchor a bleeding, battered defense against the absolute juggernauts of the NFC North? With Kobe Bryant out for months, the secondary reshuffling in a complete panic, and the injury carts working overtime on the edge, this defense is crippled. They desperately need a miracle right up the middle to take the pressure off a makeshift back end. The emergence of Jordan Vandenberg is no longer just a fun, feel-good underdog story for August. It might literally be the only thing that saves this defensive unit from total collapse. The gravity of what is potentially going to be asked of this young man heading into Week 1 is simply staggering.
We are going to be watching every single snap of this unbelievable situation unfold, and you absolutely need to see where this story goes next. If you are a passionate fan of the game and want the most intense, structured breakdowns in the sport, hit that subscribe button right now and join us here at NFL Nexus. Please give this explainer a like, and I want you to head down to the comments right now. Do you believe Jordan Vandenberg is actually going to steal that starting job before Week 1? Drop your opinions down below. I really want to read what you guys think. And if you want to truly support the channel and get even deeper, exclusive access to our content, click the join button and become a member today. Thank you for learning with NFL Nexus. Keep your eyes on the trenches, and we'll see you next time.